And we are live. Good morning, brother. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
Man, if I was any better, I'd be twins. So I'm doing pretty good. Got no complaints. Business is good. We're busy, and so busy's good. As you know, we reached out to you to do some assessments. We got new salespeople coming on board, so it's pretty exciting. So
Nice.
we're trying to grow. So what you got going on? How's it going?
Good, good. Just getting life is good, business is good. Getting
Love it.
this episode in.
Yeah. So, hey, just want to welcome everybody to another episode of Motivation and Mindset. I am James Morris. I'm President and CEO of TMC Workforce Solutions and TMC Supply Chain Solutions. So, we're a national staffing firm, but we do coaching and consulting. And so, if you're looking for a job, we're the people to call, or if you're looking for somebody to help you find employees, we're the people to call. And I'm here with my brother, Jermaine.
Hi, yes, I'm Jermaine Morris. I'm a certified coach and consultant. When my practice is based around a DISC assessment, based out of Sacramento, California. And so I always like to work under the premise of self-awareness without judgment, and helping you either in personal development or on the professional side.
Yep. And like I mentioned earlier, not only is TMC very proud of what Jermaine is doing, we're also a customer. So this week we were actually having assessments done on our new salaried employees. So Jermaine, appreciate that. It's definitely help us to manage our business. So hey man, let's jump into it, man. A lot going on in the world. I love the opportunity for us to get together and just talk about what's real, right? Talk
Yeah.
about what's going on. The one thing I always like to preface the discussions with is we're not lawyers, we're not doctors, we're not prescribing anything. We're two brothers that like to get together and we talk about real life relevant issues, things that I experience in business, things that we both experience on the personal side. And, there's so many parallels, right? The work life and the home life, the basic principles are the same. So we have positive discussion with no judgment. And we're hoping that we're going to say something that could possibly help us out and help you out. But we are not doctors, lawyers, and we're not prescribing anything. So let's just jump in. This week, and we talked about this briefly last night, updating your operating systems.
Yeah.
And so for me, a million things went through my mind, right? I'm thinking about ISO audits. I'm thinking about policies and procedures. I'm thinking about my computer, right? Making sure that my Windows is up to date and that I got my antivirus up to date and all those things. But, you know, why don't you lead us in this week? When we talk about updating your operating system, talk to me about what goes through your mind.
Um, so I think that we all came up with a series of belief systems and narratives and ways we do things based upon however we were raised or whoever raised us. And it's very easy to get caught up in the idea of the way I've done it or what's familiar to me or what I'm used to seeing. And that could have been true for a period of time. But as we get older, sometimes we don't revisit the way we approach things. The way our views on, there was a time where it was like, get out of school and go, get you a job. Then there was a time where it was when you get out of high school, make sure you go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's more of a shift to vocational training and get you a trade early so you can get, that degree may not be able to sustain you, whereas a solid trade will now in this climate. Being able to look at, okay, this was a belief system I had, this was a way I approach stuff, and it may have been true for a time, but I may need to revisit some of my old beliefs and patterns and see if it still fits today.
I like that because, when you start talking about the what,
Yeah.
But what about the why?
That's
right? Sometimes we think, well, this is what we're doing. This is what we've always done. This is what we do.
Yeah.
But how often do we go back and we say, why am I doing it? And I think once you get into the why, that's when you start to figure out, is it still relevant today? So I'll give you an excellent example. we've had hundreds of employees right across the nation, and throughout my career, I've probably employed thousands of people. And the one thing that has always been interesting to me is I hire someone and I see them carrying out a task. Now we've trained them, we provided them processes and procedures, but when I go to their desk, they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And I ask myself, and I ask them, so why are you doing it that way? Well, this is how I've always done it.
Yeah.
Well, this is how we did it at my last job.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm doing it this way now. And I've had situations where every time I ask them, well, this is how we did it at my, I says, if your old job was so great, why are you here? Oh, I hated working there. But you want to do exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
So I think that when you start talking about, when I look at my operating systems within my companies, and we have what we call a continuous improvement team, right? And we meet once a month, and we have a list that we vetted out, and we try to keep the list within 10 things, and then we rank those 10 things from most important to least important, and then when we get together, we work on number one. And then once we're comfortable that we've solved number one, we go to number two. Now becomes number one, and the list now goes from 10 to 9. But we spend a little bit of time talking about the what, okay, and we spend a lot more time talking about the why, right? We understand, why are we doing it this way? Is there a reason? Was it a customer requirement? What is a business requirement? Is it a legal requirement? Why do we do drug tests on everybody we hire? There's a why.
Yeah.
It's not what we're doing anymore. Why? Because drug tests are very expensive. So if a customer, which we have a lot of customers, say in California, they don't test for marijuana anymore. So when we're updating our processes for drug screens, instead of us doing a 12-panel drug screen, now we do a 6. Why do we switch? Well, because one costs $30 and one costs $20. Now we get $10, right?
Yeah.
Why did we switch? Because it's not required. So it's not, we look at the what. Okay, this is what we do, but this is why we do it, right? And we have a process that we call to problem solving, right? So we're looking to update a process, and I'm just strictly talking from a TMC perspective, but yeah, we use something called a DMIDE process, which is define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. So we define, that's the what. We measure. Is it a big deal? Is it a big old problem? Or is it just something that we don't even need to spend time talking about? So we measure, define, measure, then we analyze it, right? We know the problem. It's a big problem. So now let's analyze, let's make sure that we understand it. Then we improve it. We measure, we define, measure, analyze, we improve it. And then the most important thing is we control it. There's nothing I hate more than when we go to my Indianapolis office, and I'm going to pick on them. They're probably listening. But we go to my Indianapolis office, and we solve a problem, and everything's running smooth. And then we come back to Houston, and then when we go visit Indianapolis, they're doing it the same way they were doing it when we left. So that's a lack of control.
Okay.
So define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. That's the steps that we take when we're, updating our operating system. So I want to get back to the personal, right? Because, we start talking about TMC, I'll end up hogging the whole conversation. Yeah. On a personal side, right? When you talk about updating your operating system, like how we live and how we operate. Yeah. When I was in the barbershop, back when I used to have to go to the barbershop a long time ago, my barber, Brent Alexander, used to make a statement to me. He used to say, Mo, the things that I did at 24, I don't do at 42. And that always resonated with me. What do you mean, Brent? When I was 24, I used to do X, Y, and Z. Right. But if I was still doing the things that I did at 24 at 42, that'd be pretty foolish of me. Right. That would show a lack of growth. So essentially, I had to, and these aren't the words he used, but I had to update my operating system. So what's your operating system? It's my values, my standards, how I dress. The way I dress at 24, I certainly don't dress now. The way I cut my hair, the way I treat people, So I want to kick it back over you because, like I said, this is actually a pretty riveting topic to me, and I can keep going on and on. But let me hear your thoughts on just that. I guess just the process, right? The process.
Yeah. So I think starting with the first thing you were saying is that so personally, like your why you do the things that you're doing. If you started off as just a single man or woman and it was just you, why you did something became different than you when you got married, or why you were doing something once you started having children. When your responsibilities changed, why you do the things you do easily could change. And if those aren't the case, we talk about just getting older and the difference between 24 and 42 and addressing our values and standards and that. If you're living the life the way, if your 24-year-old life, whatever that is, no right, wrong, good or bad, just however you're spending your 24-year-old days,
Mm-hmm.
your life is looking like your 24-year-old choices. So if there's a different life you want, it's going to require some changes in those standards and those
Right.
values and those processes for how you spend your day. Your relationships, your interactions, all these sorts of things. So if you're like, okay, at 24, I want to be CEO of a company and own multiple properties and take extravagant vacations or just have time to be home or
Right.
however you want to do it. Can you do that the way you live now and making your today choices? Can you do that at 24? Probably not.
Right. Right.
So I'm going to need to change. So the caveat to that though is, so you may take in some new changes at 24 and say, I'm going to go pedal to the floor, all out, blow the doors open. I'm going to work 6 days a week, 50, 60 hours a day to establish myself in the company, to accrue X amount of dollars, whatever. And so you do that from 24 to 34 to 44 and maybe even to 54. But at this point now, you missed your kids. Your marriage may be on the rocks.
Right.
You're becoming a grandparent, and you don't barely even know the child that brought this child. So then at this point, you're saying, okay, I want to have a life where I spend time with my family. I have a lot. Okay, so I can't do that working 6 days a week, 50, 60 hours a day, you know, doors open. So, okay, now I'm gonna have to change again.
Right.
I have to update. Okay, I changed my operating system to get these tangible results. I achieve those to the best of whatever I was trying to do. But now
Mm-hmm.
I have new goals. And so I'm going to need to, I can't get both staying the same way. I couldn't have achieved all that stuff on my 24-year-old sleep till I wake up schedule,
Yeah.
staying
Yeah.
out till 2, 3 in the morning, hit every club and party. I couldn't accrue be CEO of the company doing it that way. But I
Right.
also can't be a committed wife or a husband, mother, father,
Yeah.
if I still stick with that. So sometimes when we have to revisit the operating system, is the current operating system, the one we're working on now, does that get us to the goals that we're working towards, even if the goals have changed?
Yeah. You make a great point. So there's, I always kind of reference back to some of the things that I've read. And, those of you that get a chance to listen in, I encourage you to pick up some of these books. Um, there's a book out there called What Got You Here
Okay.
Won't Get You There.
Okay.
Right. And, that book very much resonated with me because, again, in the same context that you were speaking about how we have to evolve,
Yeah.
when I think about what it took me to get to be a business owner,
Yeah.
right? I started off in the early mid 90s at Compact Computer Corporation, stacking pallets, right, and building um, computers, right? And then I went into work for, the Bontas and the R. Donnellys, where I was a supervisor, and I was that guy. I'm still a recovering workaholic, right? Because I was a guy that was working 6 or 7 days a week. I was the first guy there every day. I worked my tail off while I was there, and I was the last guy to leave because I was, sweeping and then turning the lights off when I left. Well, over time, I knew that I was making money. I'm working a lot of overtime because I was still punching the clock in those days. And, but I was working towards something. But there's a sacrifice, right? So if you talk to your nephews, the older boys, they'll tell you, well, Pops was at work. Pops didn't make every practice. Pops didn't make, I tried to make most of the games, but Pops couldn't do this. Now, we were able to dress nice and sneakers, and we were able to do AAU, and we were able to travel and go to this and that. But Pops was at work. Pops was in Ireland. Pops was in Holland. Pops was in San Jose, California. Pops was working. Well, if you talk to your younger nephew, you're like, oh, Dad was at every practice, right? And that's tough. But again, what got me, so I'm going to step back to the professional side. The things that got me, it was a balance of working in the business versus working on the business. So I spent the first 20 years of my career working in the business. And that got me to a point where I could eventually buy the company from the gentleman that I was working for. But the things that got me to be able to buy my own company, if I continued to do those things, I'd have been out of business a long time ago. What got you here won't get you there, because I can't spend my days out on the shop floor talking to assembly operators. Now I've got to talk to the bank. Yeah. I've got to talk to, our benefactors. I've got to talk to the leadership teams. I got to work with other companies that support us, like your firm supports TMC. I've got to be talking to other suppliers. So we have to evolve, because if we don't evolve, we won't survive, right? And, it's the guy at the club, Jerome from Martin, right? Yeah. And that suit that he put on, that jumpsuit that made him the coolest guy in the club in 1975. If he puts that suit on right now in 2023 and walks in the club, he's going to look ridiculous. Yeah. Right. In the exact same suit, the exact same hairstyle that once made him a superstar, he's going to look like a joke. Yeah. Right. And it's because, again, he needs to update his operating system. You have to evolve. So that's something that, we actively are doing in our business. We actually had a process improvement meeting yesterday with my team on some some very specific item setup things. Yeah. But we've learned that we know what it is. As we refer back to the why, we know that if we fix it, it's going to create an improvement. It's going to create flexibility. It's going to have more than one point of failure, right? Opportunities to fail, right? Other people can step in. So if Mary's out, John can do it, right? If Colleen's out, Barbara can help her and support her, and so we did that. So I just feel like updating your operating system is so critical. Yeah. What got you here won't get you there. Let's talk a little bit more, relationship side. You do a good job of coaching and counseling your big bro on that. So, let's talk about, you hear a lot of people say, and sometimes I think it's cliche, but it makes sense, the things that you did to get a person. If you don't continue to do those things, hey, when we first got together, we used to go to the movies every Saturday night. We had a date night. Well, now we've been together. We went from Netflix and I just fall asleep on the couch. So how do we, and some of that's we get older, we get tired. Sometimes economically we can't afford to go out every Saturday. Sometimes we just get a little sick of each other, and date night, things get stale. But, how important is it to update your operating system, in your male, I don't want to say male-female relationship today, in your partner's relationship, right? Whoever you're dealing with.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes it's, like I say, so keeping, like I say, it was a business structure. You have your mission statement, your core values, your core beliefs. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's those don't change, but maybe it's how you do those. So when you first start dating and your kids, drive in a large pizza may have been fine. Yeah. But as you get older, it's like it turns into, a nicer restaurant. It turns into trip to Aruba. It turns into, based on your tax bracket in life, you can get by with a Netflix every now and then, but you don't need to leave the house.
Right.
And you may need to leave the state or the country at certain periods of time. But understanding like the way we do things, being open to changing, because what we may know who we want, but the who changes and matures too. If you got together with somebody in your 20s and now you're both in your 50s, neither one of you is the same person.
Exactly.
So the fact that we want grace for our maturity and change, but sometimes we don't want to do the work that's required to adapt to their change.
Yeah.
That can be problematic. So updating the operating system is our ability, willingness, and the degree of concern to how we interface with the other person. You know, we know we work harder now. We know I was gung ho working before. I'm more at home now. I've made these adjustments. I used to be like this. Now I'm like that. We could sit there and itemize all the ways that we've changed and matured. But then the question is, okay, well, how much did we change our operating system in relation to someone else?
Yes.
As they changed, did we plug back in and make sure that the way that we're receiving them, communicating with them, and interacting with them still fits? Because what they wanted in 10 years ago may not be how they want to be communicated with now. You know, the level of, you know, vacations may have changed. The level of physical intimacy may have changed. The level of, like, are we still on our, you know, our path, or are we updating them as well?
Well, you know, so let me say this, and I don't want to step into your shoes, right? Because I don't pretend to be coach or counselor at all. I'm an ops guy. But when I think about the operating system, right, in the literal, when I update my operating system on my laptop,
Yeah,
and Richard comes in and he does a virus sweep and he takes off stuff that doesn't need to be there and he puts on things, my antivirus, my new version of Windows or Word or whatever, right?
yeah,
But I'm not throwing my laptop away.
exactly.
And when I think about it, so I'm going to use it in the context of a house. You know, the first steps is you have to lay a foundation. You know, we're going to lay this foundation and then we're going to build a framework, right? It's going to be 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage. Those things, that's who we are. So when I think about foundation, I'm thinking about value system, morals, standards, your personal ethos.
Yeah.
You know, what do I believe in? When I update my value system, I'm still going to be James Morris no matter what. But I may change how I do things, right? So if I go back to the house, you know, honey tied to the kitchen, we may need to remodel the kitchen. Yeah. We can move the sink. We're going to add some cabinets, maybe some backsplash, some towels, maybe a new refrigerator, right? With the screen on the front. But the foundation of who I am as a man, the foundation of who we are as a couple should remain unchanged, right? You know, we change within.
I would challenge that a little bit.
Okay.
Because depending upon how long you live, depending upon how long you're here, there have been a lot of changes that have happened in life. So we say the type of man I am, or the type of woman I am, or the type of relationship we have. If you're long enough in the tooth, there's been societal changes, cultural changes. If you were born in the 1950s, the life that you knew growing up in the 50s, 60s to the 70s, a lot of those beliefs have not carried over into 2023.
Absolutely.
So if you say good, bad, right, wrong, and different, however, a lot of the language, a lot of the viewpoints, there's a lot of stuff that is no longer carried over. The way that children were raised, child rearing in the 70s and 80s, a lot of that is not prevalent in 2023. It doesn't mean that you change being a father, no, but the way that you view fatherhood may be different now. You know what I mean? You say that the dynamic of, there was a time where the husband went to work and the wife stayed home and raised kids. If you're long enough in the tooth and had that situation, that is not now in 2023. Not only are most of these marriages and families two income households, but you even find where the wife goes to work and the husband's at home.
Yeah.
If that dynamic has changed since you got together, the man was the one who was the breadwinner. Fast forward 10, 15 years, economy changes. Your degree means less, hers means more. Layoffs, the economy, all this sort of stuff. Now you're in a space to where right now she's providing. You may have to reevaluate the way that you saw this relationship. Do you know what I mean? The whole way that this was pictured 20 years ago, you may have to there may be some shifts to you internally and personally.
That could destroy the very foundation.
That's what I'm saying. So the idea so I liken it to, so keeping with your analogy, you bought the land. At some point, you may have to tear the entire house down.
Right. Frame,
and rebuild,
foundation
and rebuild a brand. You don't sell the plot. You keep the property.
Right.
But you may have to tear that building down, because that building was based on a foundation with the materials that were available and accessible at the time you built it. Built from the blueprints from somebody who had the knowledge of building homes and schematics with what they had at the time they designed it. That may no longer be, like I said, like homes now. If a home was built in the 30s, 40s, you can keep renovating on top of renovating on top of. At some point, you may be like, we might just need to start back at zero, because the way that the wires were put in, the way that the plumbing was installed, the type of material that the pipes were made of, lead in the paint and all this asbestos in the roof. Like, it was built fine the way when it was built. Mm-hmm. But at this stage now, we may just have to tear the whole house down and build a brand new house.
So I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb. Okay. Would you say, I love the analogy of, the plot of land versus the physical structure, right? Because I started thinking about, foundation and framework.
Yeah.
But would you say that the land is my life?
Okay.
And the house is my relationship?
I would say whatever we're talking about is the land. So if the relationship is what we're discussing, the relationship is the land.
Right.
If it's the individual is the land, and whatever you build up on that land. So you as an individual are the plot. Now, what you choose to do with this plot is entirely up to you. You get together in a marriage or committed union, whatever, folks calling it these days. You get together in a committed relationship. That is the plot. What you build upon that will be determined upon what your values, that person's values, and what you agree together. It's just that sometimes we get into these spaces, or we grow up and start with, say, dysfunction, or we start off, Uncle chiming in, Uncle Jim.
Yeah.
And so we start off with this. We have some dysfunctional foundation. We have asbestos in the roof. Mm-hmm. We have lead in the paint. We've got rust in the pipes. That was based upon what we started with. So now the house we built on the plot that we have, it's got some fundamental flaws. So when it comes to updating our operating system, it may be after a while we realize that, like, okay, I've been building so much on a shaky foundation, right, that I have to tear it down to rebuild something strong.
Okay. I like that. So, we could get, this is a great conversation, right? And I'm going to, we talk about updating your operating system. I wish we could have had a subtopic. I guess we could have, but I think it comes back to what got you here won't get you there. Right. And rarely does that happen. So we have to evolve, right? On my laptop, if I never run my antivirus, eventually I'm going to get a bug. It's going to take over my computer, and my computer is no longer going to work, right? So
Yeah.
if I don't update my operating system, eventually my version of Word and Excel and PowerPoint aren't going to work. In my company, I just hired a new sales guy. We're updating our procurement services processes because there's changes in sales tax rules between Texas and Georgia, which we're fighting through right now. If we don't make updates at the end of the year, I'm going to have to write a big old check, right? That doesn't make sense. So if we don't make the improvements, sometimes we'll be forced to make improvements. Sometimes we'll be proactive and we'll do them on our own. But if we're stubborn and we refuse to update our operating system, we're going to fail.
Yeah.
Right. We just had a discussion about talent. Right. Our business has shifted. We have offices. People don't come into the office anymore. People want to pick up their iPhone. They apply for a job. We don't even meet them until they have to take a drug test and show ID that you're really who was applying online. We don't even meet our candidates. We interview on Zoom calls. We had to operate. We just hired an inventory analyst in Georgia, Fort Valley, Georgia, and I've never met her face to face. But we interviewed her. She did her application online on her iPhone while she's on vacation. She did everything onboarding. That's a sign that we updated our operating system. What if we had refused? We'd be going out of business because people ain't got time to come in your office to fill out an application. I can't do it on my phone. Yes, you can.
You still on pen and paper?
Yeah. Well, when I started this company, we used to print. We had a company that used to bring us boxes of employment applications, and they were stacked up in the corner, and we handed them out to everybody that walked in the door. Yeah. I haven't seen an employment application since 2018. So we had to update our operating system. And what that has done, again, what got you here won't get you there. It's allowed us to survive. It's allowed us to be competitive. Yeah. Because with those updates, typically it's going to be slicker, faster, more efficient, cheaper. Technology is cheap. And so we save money. Our operating costs have decreased. Our operating margins have increased as a direct result of updating our operating system. Yeah. So, we've all connected the dots. So what I'm gonna do is I'm a volley. I'm gonna shoot you a softball. Talk to me personally about the value, the risk, rewards, and possibly results, negative, right? From not updating my operating system.
Okay, so one thing going with your quote, he says, "What got you here won't get you there." But as time goes by, what got you here may not even keep you here.
Wow.
So,
wow.
you worried about making it to the next step. You can't stay on this one. Like,
right.
If you're not willing to update and make these changes, like there's somebody who came into the game on pen and paper who could knock out 20 reports a night before they clocked out. And that's what got them in, because 20 back then, everybody was maybe doing 10 or 12 and they could do 20. They were an all-star. Then everything shifts over to computers, laptops, and iPads. Now they're knocking out 100 a night online.
Yeah.
Well, that 20s, you're the bottom by a far margin. So it got you in the game as an all-star, but it's going to be the reason why you get escorted out. So sometimes what got you here won't even keep you here. But if you don't update, so say interpersonal relationship wise, something that I'm a big proponent of is people addressing their mental health issues, addressing their mental and emotional space, and recognizing their bandwidth and how much they can deal with, being more communicative about what's going on. If you're of a particular generation or age, that is not the system you came into the game with.
Right.
And so, but what we've been learning through all the, data and information is that is a major contributor to, a lot of people's mental health challenges, which show themselves in their parenting and their relationships, their ability to come to work, the productivity while they're at work, their effects in school, all that sort of stuff. So when you say what's the negative result of not changing, well, number one, if you're around people who are, you probably won't be around much longer. So if people realize that these are some of the dynamics, my family dynamic, my community dynamic, my work dynamic, that are causing me these particular things, and I've now done something about them. I've been, 80 pounds overweight for the last 20 years because everybody I'm hanging out with. So I decided to get me a nutritionist and a personal trainer. Okay, well, now I've gotten fit, lost the 80 pounds. I'm feeling good. How long am I going to be hanging out with the people that I stayed 80 pounds overweight with if none of them are going to address it either? Exactly. They don't have to change if they don't want to, but for me and where I'm going, we're no longer in alignment.
Right.
So when we don't make those adjustments, sometimes, that can work itself out, the environments that are around us. Like I said, you can fall behind, the people around you can change. And personally, if we don't evolve and grow and stay updated with what's going on, you'll feel it. You'll feel that dynamic, with your children, with your spouse, with your siblings, with your parents, if they're still around. You'll start to feel it, that I don't want to change. This is who I am. This is how I've always been. This is just me. They need to adapt to me. You can stand on that if you want to.
Yeah.
But more often than not, you'll find yourself standing alone.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember a computer company called Gateway.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they refuse to change.
Yeah.
and I was big in the computer business when they were TOPS, right? Configuration to order, right? I was working at Compact Computer Corporation. We were competing with Dell, and Gateway was, they had the box with the cow on the commercial. Right. And I remember when the market started to change and things became more efficient and more automated, they were like, oh, we're not laying off people, and we're not going to that new automated chip placement system. We're just going to keep building these by hand, and we're going to keep building them specific to you.
Yeah.
Well, that may work for Burger King, but that doesn't work for Computer Corporation. So I think Gateway Computers, who had an amazing product, is an excellent example of what happens when you don't update your operating system. I can remember reading as a kid, Ford Motor Company, had a funny little commercial says, we can build you a car and it can be any color you want as long as it's black. Well, they realized very quickly that if you didn't start spraying them blue and red and green, that they weren't going to survive. And I tell you, I wish we could add people to the chat. I see Uncle Jimmy's listening in, and I know he celebrated an anniversary, right? So he's somebody that's been married 30 plus years, and I don't know the exact number, but he's certainly somebody that could chime in and talk about how he's adjusted his operating system to reach such longevity, right? So there's, I think there's power in experience.
Very much.
So, one of the things I'm gonna make sure I do is reach out to Uncle Jim and get a few of those nuggets. But as we come to, this is a great discussion, right? For business, always happy to share some of the real life examples of what we're doing. But just through these discussions, I'm always coming up with light bulbs coming on, saying, "Man, here's something I need to do." Right here's an improvement that I can make. I had a big discussion. We had a interesting situation with the business, and I had to ask a question of my leadership team: is the goal to survive, or is it to thrive? Yeah. Right. If you just want to survive, we just keep doing what we're doing. It's almost like filling up a car with a tank of gas, and we're just going to drive it till it runs out.
See how far
we run out of. Yeah, when we run out of gas, we just all get out the car and start walking. Or do we want to thrive? Right. And that's what we want to do. And we understand that if we don't update our operating system, I keep coming back to the point. If we keep doing what we've been doing and don't even discuss why we're doing it, it's a recipe for disaster. So Anyway, close us out, man. Give me some, because not only do I utilize this platform to help people, I utilize this for my free coaching and counseling. So give me some nuggets to go out on as we wrap this session up.
I would say for anybody who's an adult, and when I mean adult, let's say if you're over 30, if you're over 30 years old. So this is the cement's not dry, but it's definitely firm on those belief systems, those ideologies, those approaches to life. That when we're looking at the need to kind of to reevaluate, to reassess, to update that operating system, always remembering that the brain is not designed to make you successful. The brain is designed to keep you safe. So we'll get into a pattern of behavior that keeps us surviving. We'll keep a pattern of behavior that keeps us a kind of at base point that this is manageable. That's the brain's goal. It's not, thriving is not what it's designed for. You have to be proactive about that. It's the default, like, let's keep your head above water, not at your ankles, but just at least your chin. You can function here, and so sometimes some of these ways that we've been practicing, ways we've been operating are chin level. We're just barely maintaining relationships. We're just our kids barely call us. Our wife or husband is really one argument away from filing some papers. These like we
Wow.
were we are operating in a space of just a chin level water. So when you want to get to that space of thriving and healthy relationships and that transparency and that freedom and that motion, being proactive about re-engaging, reestablishing, reassessing, updating those operating system is important, because if you just leave it to default, if you just leave it for when the computer kicks it in itself and you just all of a sudden, an update was done, when you just do it that way, that's survival.
Right.
When you want the efficient running best programs, you got to go out and get those.
Yeah.
And so when we're updating our operating system, being proactive is definitely important.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you to just repeat this one statement one time.
Okay.
The brain is not designed
to make you successful.
The
brain is designed to keep you safe.
Man, that's powerful, man. I think I want those that listen, and I know you're going to send out some clips, and we'll make sure this gets out on the platform. I want people to really think about this, right? Everything always comes back to why.
Yeah.
Why am I not being successful? I'm a smart guy. Well, what are you doing to be successful? Why am I not losing weight, right? Well, the brain is designed to, you need to eat. You got hunger pains, right? You got ghrelin going off in your stomach. The proactive side is, let me go get on this treadmill. Let me go lift weights, right? Let me do more. So I think you almost opened up a whole nother topic that we can spend an hour on, right? Because so many people want, why have I not achieved our goals? A couple of weeks ago, we talked about potential.
Yeah.
And we talked about the Charles Schultz quote, there's no greater burden than that of great potential, right? That's burdensome. And people are wondering why. I'm the most talented athlete. How come I'm not the MVP? Right? I'm big. I'm the biggest.
Yeah.
So I think we have a whole nother topic. Man, this has been a great show. Again, I'm always thankful when, like I said, Uncle Jim joined in. I think one of my sons, I saw something from him a few minutes ago. Hopefully we've said something today that's going to help someone. Hopefully, again, we're not prescribing anything, but hopefully we've said something today that's going to help somebody. It's positive. And so that's what we're going to continue to do. I've got about 3 or 4 ideas of things I want to talk about further. Some you and I will talk about one-on-one, and some will bring to the full platform. Talk about, so let's close out, but you did you did some disc profile work for TMC this week. Thank you. It's always excellent. The check's in the mail. But yeah, just please tell us about the disc assessment. And, I want to encourage people to go out there and I don't even want to say support you. Kind of go get that instruction manual on how to better manage yourself. So share that with the listeners.
Yeah. So the disc assessment is basically boils down to it's a test that's given And the results of the test show how we basically interface with the world and ourselves, how we are decision making, how we communicate and interact with others, how systems orientated we are or are not. I work everything through self-awareness without judgment. So there's no lens of this is not good, bad, right, or wrong. But the report, it's a 22-page report about you. They say human beings don't come with an owner's manual. This is basically ours. And so it shows the most effective and least effective ways to communicate with us, potential blind spots in behavior, strengths, tendencies, all these sorts of things. And so on a personal side, it's a great diagnostic. If you're like, well, what do I want to do? I want to make a change. I want to pivot in my life. I just want to, like, I'm young. I want to get started, or I can't seem to connect what I can do with what I'm doing. It's a good diagnostic to begin that way. And then professionally, it's a great tool when it pertains to staffing, management, training, and whatnot. So you can go to mykeystome.com. That's MYKEYSTOME, mykeystome.com. And at the website, there's information on the assessment. We can set you up with a consultation and then get you started if you're interested.
That's awesome. And again, not only do I fully support my brother's business, but so my keys to me, is that right? Yeah, mykeystome.com. So just want to put that out there. Anybody that's interested in getting a DISC profile. The last thing I'll say about it is we use it in business for new hires to try to really, and it's not a pass fail, but it's to better understand how our new hires will interact with the management and how management should best interact with that people, right? What motivates them, what type of person they are, what moves the needle. So it's good. Another thing is, even couples, right? Yeah. Couples get it, and he and she get it, and then now we see, okay, maybe this is why we're not getting along. Maybe I'm not approaching you in the most effective and efficient manner. So, hey, Jermaine, I think that's awesome. I'm James Morris, President and CEO of TMC Workforce Solutions, TMC Supply Chain Solutions, keeping everybody aware. They got a couple of really cool books coming out soon. We have the Entrepreneur's Encyclopedia. We're working on it. We're doing some editing and fine tuning. So we're going to make that available for, yes, we have the internet, but we put everything in one place. One of the frustrations that I've had with business books is I read it, right? I read a real estate book and the advertisements are how to make millions in real estate. And I read the whole book and I'm still left wondering, like, so what do I actually need to do? Well, in the Entrepreneur's Encyclopedia, we're going to give up all the magicians' secrets. So whether it's how do you file your taxes, how do you work with the federal government, how do you do marketing, how do you analyze, and we've gone into every human resources. How do you hire? How do you fire? Federal regulations, how to fill out a W-4 form. Everything is in this one place. And it's a reference guide. It's nothing that you'll read cover to cover. It's probably going to be a few thousand pages. But again, we put the internet in a book. So we probably need to update our operating system. It'll be available online. It'll be in Barnes & Nobles. It'll be on Amazon. You'll be able to download it. And it's just a great reference guide. So we're going to continue to bring things. We're going to continue to bring positivity. We're going to continue to help people. And you can find Jermaine at, what was it one more time, Jermaine?
mykeystome.com. And every social media platform is at JMorris CEO.
And you can find me at www.morrismotivation.com. That'll get you close to me as far as coaching and counseling. And then anybody out there in the world, TMC Workforce Solutions, TMC Solutions. If you type that in, it'll pop up and you'll be able to get in touch with us and, again, help put you to work. So, hey, man, a great topic. I'm rambling because I'm not ready to get off yet, but I know we both have work to do. Hey, thank you for joining, man. I love you. We're going to come up with some great topics, and hopefully we'll continue to help people.
Yep.
Have a good week.
You too.